Hey, pretty little lifters. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be chatting with our guest, Grace Emmons of Forward with Grace. And Grace and I first met at a CrossFit gym here in Los Angeles several years ago. I was kind of new to the area from Orange County, and it was just so great to meet so many amazing people and stay connected to them, even after kind of people started going their own ways. And we also happen to be USC alum as well. And fight on. And I've had the opportunity to see like such a cool career shift with Grace and like with her life. And it's been such a fun like past couple years. And I've had some really cool experiences with her, which we'll get into a little bit more, but I'm so excited to chat with her and share about like my first Reiki experience because it was with her. And she's been an integral part of my healing and growth routine over the past couple years. She's so smart. She's a mama of two adorable little girls, a business owner, and she has such a chill and supportive energy and vibe, which I absolutely adore. Welcome to the podcast, Grace.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction, my hype woman. Can you be with me always giving that introduction?
Always. Yes. Here for it. Anytime you need. Oh my goodness. It's so good to see you. We were just talking before I hit record that we hadn't seen each other, in a couple months. And I was like, oh my gosh, I miss you.
I miss you so much. And I was so looking forward to this conversation, mostly to catch up with you and get to see you and talk about all this stuff with you. How fun and exciting, and to do this, with you. I love you.
I love this. So for our listeners, can you give us a brief intro on like what you're doing personally, professionally, so we can get a little taste of Grace?
Yeah, for sure. So I am a Reiki master, an energy healer, transformational coach. I support high profile path pavers, change makers, people that want to step into their best version of themselves. I'm also the CEO of Forward with Grace, my spiritual consultancy. And I have a team of Reiki masters that work for me at my studio, and we support corporate clients as well with wellness. Also, I am a mother of two. I don't know, maybe I should start with that, but you already gave that introduction. I'm a mother. I'm a wife to a wonderful husband. We live in Topanga Canyon, and we also run another business here where we rent out these little guest house retreats in nature. We're right on the edge of the state park, and so we get to host a lot of cool people. Writers, artists, seekers, people on solo retreats, all kinds of cool things. And yeah, I don't know. That's a little about me, I guess.
I love that. And, it's funny. I grew up in California. I'm very familiar with like Topanga Canyon, but it wasn't until I went to visit you there that I was like, oh my gosh, like this is Topanga Canyon, like really like getting into the canyon. And like they have an Airbnb now, and I will link it in the show notes because it's such a cool vibe. Like you're literally, I'm like, LA is like right here. Like, where am I? I am in nature. I can totally understand why you moved to where you guys did to raise your family. It just feels like you're in a different world, like outside of the city. And when I'm there, like I feel so calm and chill.
There is a magical, mystical energy of the canyon. I don't know how to explain it, but you feel it the moment you get in here. And let's just say it supercharges the work that I'm doing with clients because it's truly healing just being here, I think, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I mentioned the word Reiki in the intro, and I know for some people, because I have kind of shared my story with Reiki with people I encounter, and it's either they know what it is, or some of them are like, what is that? I've never heard this word before. So can you give us a little like rundown, like what is Reiki and how did you become a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master?
Yeah, for sure. So Reiki is a Japanese form of energy healing. It's really clinically shown to reduce stress and anxiety. It's great for relaxation, stress reduction. But it has all of these really kind of spiritual, magical benefits that more research needs to be done on this area because The reason I went on to become a Reiki master was actually because of my first experience with Reiki. I found this form of healing when I was in a really bad place in my life, dark place in my life. You actually knew me at this time, Tiffany. I was dating someone from the gym. That was a very toxic relationship. I was in a career that felt it was really burning me out and really draining me. And I had just really like lost touch with myself. And I didn't really realize until I re-experienced what it felt like to feel alive and well and me. And that happened in my first Reiki session. It was a brush with the transcendent, if that is something that means anything to you. Like I had this deeply spiritual, moving experience, and it felt like a cloud lifted off of me. And suddenly I could see clearly, and suddenly I could take a deep breath of fresh air. And it was after that I was able to finally walk away from a relationship that was really unhealthy. I stepped into this whole new chapter of my life really from that point on. So it was just truly transformative for me. I had also been doing a lot of self-work at the time and trying a lot of different things. And it seemed like, I was meditating, I was doing yoga, I was reading all the self-help books. I was seeking just to feel better and seeking relief from the pain I was in. And it was like the Reiki, the energy healing activated everything else that I had been working on. And it was like just accelerating me up this path of transformative growth and healing. And really, I see it as, putting me where I am today, which is truly living my dream life. I mean, that sounds kind of cliche, but I truly am so grateful because I feel like this is the best life I could ever live. And so I knew the moment I had my first experience that I wanted to become a Reiki master and share that type of healing with more people.
And it's really interesting that, it's cool when I like hear your story because it's like, wow, like you were open to something, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Like when people ask me like, what is your experience with Reiki? Like, how is it? I think I was in a place where I was ready for something. And it's funny because you've also done Reiki with my husband. Like you've done Reiki with me, you've done Reiki with him. And it's funny, we've had two very different experiences because of some of the work that I've been doing. And I kind of tell people, and this is just like somebody who's not a Reiki master saying this, but it's like when people ask me like how it is, I'm like, well, if you are open, and you're kind of on this like path to like evolving and growing and changing, and like maybe you're going to therapy and doing all of this stuff, it can be something, like you said, very transformative, like if you're open to it. If this is something new and maybe you're trying it out and you've never done some of that other work or other stuff, it might just be very relaxing, like it might just feel relaxing and you like it and you're not exactly sure what it is. But I feel like for me personally, like the magic happens when you're doing the other stuff too. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. What a perfect description. I think, energy work will go as deep as you let it go, meaning the recipient, the person, receiving it, as open as you allow yourself to be, as deep as you allow it to go, it can be so powerful. You said it exactly right. When you're ready, when you want to change, when you want to grow, when you want to evolve, it is going to activate you on that path, supercharge you, give you like this power boost to all the work you're doing. I definitely see it as a huge compliment. A lot of the people I see are in therapy as well. I think it complements therapy really well. I've had people tell me, wow, I've been in therapy for 10 years and I made more progress since working with you that I have in that entire decade. Like, what is happening? And it's because we're going to this deeper level. The energetic level spans, we're able to cut across the body, the mind, the spirit. So the up levels that can happen are just so dramatic. But if you're open, and if you're not open, You're exactly right. It's going to feel, there's no risk. Like if you go in
Yeah.
and you're not open, it's going to be nice, relaxing. Maybe you doze off. You say, oh, wow, that felt so nice. I felt like what happened? But if you're ready for it, it will be a transformative journey.
100%. And I am with whoever you were kind of referencing. Like I had been going to therapy, and it's so funny because I'm one of those people who's like, I'm very self-aware. Like I'm very self-aware. And even when I go to therapy, like I know what I'm going to say. I know what they're going to say. Like I know the things to do. Like at the end of the day, like I know what I need to do. So I was kind of getting to this point where I was like, I don't feel like this is helping me very much. And then when I started coming to you and it became part of my like healing routine, like I committed to it. I was like, you know what, this is a path I want to go on. I want to, and you're very familiar when I do word of the year. So you've been with me for like a couple of my words of the year, you know, and like I know one of them was align, and we worked really hard on like aligning things in my life. But like I remember I would go to you each month. So every month we had I was like, okay, I'm going to do Reiki. And this was like consistent for like a year and a half, 2 years or something.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And it was just so cool because one, I looked forward to it every month, but like every experience was so different. Like it was so different, but because I felt like I was open. And it's funny because Tiffany, like 10 years ago, would not have probably just saw this as relaxing, you know, like I would not have been able to get that experience that I had. And I probably would have been like, oh my gosh, this is so woo woo. Like what's going on?
Well, a lot of people have that, initial reaction. I always tell people to just give it a shot and experience it for yourself, because you never know. It's just so hard to even explain without being experienced. Yeah.
And it's funny because I've definitely been connecting just more even with like my friends, like friends who are also on this similar path. And it's fun when you start getting friends who are also like people in your life who also align with this kind of stuff, because you can share a little bit more. You're talking about your growth, you're talking about your healing and like what you're doing. And you're like, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm also doing this. And it's just like really fun. Yeah, I'm such a fan. I am such a fan. But I think like one thing I want to like kind of point out to people is like why I think this is different than therapy. And this is not a replacement for therapy. It's something that you would do in addition with it. But the thing that I kind of liked about it was you and I would talk beforehand, you know, like we'd kind of come up with like a mantra. You'd ask me like, what's going on in your life? And it just felt different, you know, like it just felt like a little bit different. And we, like you said, we could get a little bit deeper and then things would get uncovered in like such a faster period of time. And then I'd end up with this mantra and I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is so cool. And I would leave feeling so like renewed. And you know, I had my ritual because I would go from you straight to the beach and I would go put my feet in the water and just like sit there for like 30 minutes and enjoy the water and nature and the sunshine. And it just became a ritual. And we've kind of talked about that, where like the importance of like having those moments and creating these rituals for yourself. And for anybody listening, if you've never done anything like that, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. We're so busy, right? Like we're so busy doing stuff all the time.
Definitely. And for a lot of people, taking care of their soul, their spirit, like themselves at the deepest level, ends up getting to be last on their to-do list, last on the priority list. And obviously, so the interesting thing that I learned, so I have a master's in psychology from Columbia, and I actually took a program that was specifically centered around spirituality, mind, and body. And the founder of the program at Columbia, Dr. Lisa Miller, she is a pioneer of studying the science of spirituality. And what she found was spiritual health is as important, perhaps more important than physical health and mental health. It's just another element that makes up a human being. And not only is it critical for us to be happy, for us to be well, for us to thrive, it's actually protective against mental health challenges. So they found that in teens, for example, this is actually very relevant for this talk, teens that had some sort of spiritual connection were protected against anxiety and depression in their teens compared to those that didn't. So it's really like a fundamental foundational part of our health that is really overlooked in our society. So for a lot of people, they're finding some sort of connection through, I don't know, through some happenstance, or you happen to try Reiki with me and that happened to really connect for you. And I think people find that connection in different ways. You know, Reiki and energy healing is a great option, and for some people will resonate. But, you know, I encourage anyone to try to find a way to fill up their soul from within, from whatever they believe source is, or a way for them to connect to source. And I think that's what's really missing in our world, especially as we've lost, you know, like we've fallen away from religion and these organized forms of spirituality that used to serve us, and don't really so much anymore.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with this. And last season, in season 1, I did a podcast episode on the 8 dimensions of wellness. And one of them that I touched on was spiritual health. And I teach my students about this. And the one thing that I think is super important is for people to understand that this isn't necessarily religion. And I think people get a little nervous when you start talking about, like, even me, I'm a public school teacher, I'm talking about spiritual wellness, and I'm like, no, this is not religion. Like, you can have your own religious beliefs and maybe that's a part of you, but like, this is so much deeper. This is like your purpose. This is like your humanness, you know? And I loved teaching my students about this, and I'm so happy they understand this, because like you said, for me personally, that was an area that has been neglected for years. I was taking care of my mental health, my physical, all the other things. And this was the part that, like, it just felt like something was off. Something was off. And like you mentioned, like, I've kind of, you know, moved away from organized religion as well. And so for me, tapping into this area just felt like really good. Like, and I just felt like I got to know myself like really, really well.
Yeah, my favorite definition of spirituality, which I don't think is well known, is that it is just your connection to yourself and your connection to something greater than yourself. That's all it is. So it's very non-denominational, right?
Yeah.
Like you can put whatever the greater than yourself is. That can be God, that can be nature, that can be community, that can be your family, your ancestors, that can be spirit, whatever words, but it's that connection to self and something greater. And so I think you said it exactly. Like it's getting clear on your purpose and deeper missions and visions for your life that, yeah, just don't have space to come through always in just the mental or physical realms. It's just another dimension of our being. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So who would you recommend Reiki for? Like, if somebody's listening and they're like, is this for me? Like, who is this for?
I mean, I want to say it's for everybody. Everybody should do Reiki.
Yes.
I have this, like, I had this big vision that, you know, Reiki and energy healing, energy work could be the next, will be, maybe I should say it that way. I think will be the next, you know, just as meditation and yoga have become so commonplace and understood of, oh, these are important practices and these can be very beneficial. Like, I see Reiki and energy work as being the next phase, the next new thing. And obviously we're a little bit further away from it being super well known. But I think if we made this something that was more commonplace, we would be healing our world, like, no questions asked. And that is, you know, Reiki, I think a lot of people, you know, they think, oh, well, if I wanted to be a Reiki healer and work with people as a healer, I would get trained in Reiki. But even the Reiki training is for anyone that wants to learn to connect to themselves on a deeper level, to connect to their intuition on a deeper level, to learn a way to connect spiritually. And that's helpful even just for anyone to use on themselves, use on your family members, use on your partner. Like, I have this vision of there being, you know, little Reiki masters and practitioners plugged into every household, to every community.
Yes.
And you can just spread this healing. I mean, that would be the dream. That's my dream.
Yeah, no. And, you know, it's interesting because as an educator, I've also seen this shift where we're being a little more open. Like now we do yoga in school. Now I do mindfulness, and kids are literally laying on yoga mats for 15 minutes. For example, today, taught my class, and the kids laid there for 15 minutes listening to a guided meditation. It's like, I didn't do that when I was in school. So like, it does seem like the next progression. And it's really interesting because especially just my time working with you for the past like 2 years, one thing that I've started to notice is like I kind of do Reiki a little bit on myself, like especially like when I go to bed. And we were talking about this one of the sessions that I had where, my hands would just kind of naturally go to where I needed it. Like maybe one would go on my heart, one would go on my stomach, or like both would go in like certain like chakra areas, and I was just like, whoa, like this is, and it was just like, it wasn't even forced. It was just like my hands. It's like, this is where we need some love and support. And I was like, this is cool.
Yes, because it is the most intuitive form of healing. Actually, think about, so I guess we didn't even say this, but so people know, a lot of Reiki is done hands-on, just gentle touch, either hands-on or just off the body. It can also be done remotely over distance because we're working energetically. You don't need, like, just as we're having this conversation and we can see each other and hear each other and make each other feel something, the Reiki can go across this as well. So we could also be doing a session where I'm working on you from here. But all of that to say is this is the most intuitive form of healing. Think about what you did when you were a kid and you bumped your elbow. Like, what would you do? You'd grab it. You hold it. Right? And then, or what does your mom do when you bump your head? She brings her lips and kisses it and holds, gives love. We're really channeling love in through the hands into the space. Love is the highest vibration energy. So when we say energy healing, it is really tapping into that. And we're channeling it in for healing. And those are obviously, the physical ailment examples, but what do you do when you're sad? You give someone a hug, right? You hold their body heart to heart. So we're kind of like bringing all of that in to a modality that you can learn and, train with. And there's of course teachings and everything. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest things I always tell my students to take away is actually like, okay, you have all the learnings now, kind of don't be afraid to forget them. Like, this is just more intuitive than you think. Just trust your intuition above all else. Put your hands on your body, let it flow. It's not more complicated than that. And actually, any of us, as you said, can do it, whether or not you're trained. The more you practice or work with someone and are receiving Reiki a lot, you kind of get attuned to it more and more. But it's something, really anyone can learn and use.
So I wanted to share like just a couple, because like I think sometimes people are like, well, what's going to happen like during, or like what am I going to feel? And just from my experience, it's like you don't know. Like you don't know until you're there. But like I remember, because you were just talking about like touch and energy and love, and it was really interesting because I came across this TikTok that went viral, and it was this woman who was crying. She was probably in her maybe like 20s or 30s. And she was just like crying because she's like, I am so lonely. Like I haven't been like physically touched in just like a hug or a handhold or anything in so long. And she was just so sad. And it instantly gave me a flashback to one of our, first couple sessions where because you always ask our comfort, and you're like, is that okay if like I touch you like lightly or whatever? And I'm like, yes, please. I love physical touch. So I'm like, okay. But I remember there was like one time where you like just held my hand, and like instantly tears started streaming down my face. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't think I realized like how much I needed that. And it was just like so eye-opening. And it was just such a cool moment. And it was just a reminder of like, even other people, I'm like, wow, how many other people like haven't had their like handheld by somebody else not in their house, or like somebody, just like a different connection, or like just, it was so interesting. But like for me, that physical element was like super important. Like, and I didn't realize how much I needed it.
Yes, definitely. I think that's like the total added bonus of Reiki is just, if you're a physical touch person, which I am, like my love language is physical touch, maybe not surprisingly. Like it is my favorite thing in the world to truly, I mean, that is what I'm doing. I'm giving away all my secrets here. What I'm really doing in a session is I'm just tapping into, like, I am just getting into a state of love for you and holding you with as much love as I can. That really is what it is at the end of the day. And everything else channels through there. I don't even know if I've even ever said those words to you in all of the sessions we've done, but people, yeah, I mean, I hope you feel that. And it is like, how often
100%.
how often are we intentionally, I mean, and of course you have people that love you in your life and are giving you love all the time, but it's really special when you create that intentional space and it's for your healing and it's for the intention we set and what you're stepping into and growing into. And that's just my only job, is to give you as much love and support as you need in that moment, and the magic that comes from that unfolding.
Yeah, no, I am a super fan. I really love it. Anybody I can tell to do, I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to try Reiki. You need to try Reiki. And I hope eventually everyone will, because it's just like a really cool experience. And like I said, it has been the most growth I've had personally. And it's so fun to it was so fun to like check in every month and be like, okay, what's happened since I've seen you? How are we growing? How are we changing? And like, there'd be certain sessions where like so much would be coming up. And I think one thing that I really liked about it too is like, we are so busy and we're so distracted and there's so many devices. And like, this was just a time where it was all about me and I was just there. And my mind was allowed to kind of float and flutter and just whatever came up. And we created that space so that my mind could go wherever, and like certain things would come up when I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, I didn't even remember that thought, or I didn't even know that was on my mind,
Because we hold so much. I said this recently and it was kind of sad, but I said, like, if you're not actively healing, you're just actively getting hurt. Because in the world that we live in, there's just so much going on. There's so much to do. Everything's so fast paced. And sometimes we don't even realize how much is left unhealed that we need to tend to until we stop and we create that space to get quiet and notice what's coming up. And like, oh my gosh, a memory. Yeah, you would have, I'm not obviously not going to say anything too personal, but like a memory from the past of like, who knows how long ago. And it's like, wow, there's healing that still needs to be done there. If it came up, that's what it means. And just think about like, I mean, yeah, we were able, I also just want to say how beautiful it has been and still is, but was especially during that time we were working consistently together the past couple of years, to see you grow and flourish and thrive, and to see the you that you've become. Not that there was, anything wrong with who you were before, but like I've really gotten to watch you bloom into who you are and just like step into your power and your light more and more and more. And there's nothing that fulfills me more than getting to witness that and see that. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you how beautiful it was.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, that made my day. No, it's really cool. Like I said, I'm like, this is something I want like everyone to try. But we've kind of touched on like how we've grown and evolved, and like, it's really cool. Like I knew you before, like I knew a different version of Grace. You knew a different version of Tiffany, and we're like in different places now. So like, I was thinking maybe we could like share our thoughts on like allowing ourselves to grow. I know sometimes like we feel like this pressure to stay the same because people know you as this person, and like, well, this is the person I knew 5 years ago. They're so different. But it's like, what are your thoughts on that, and just like allowing yourself to like grow and change and heal?
That is such a good question. I came across something just the other day that was talking about how our body is changing literally every second. We're creating new cells, we're growing, our hair is growing, our nails are growing, right? Like your muscles are growing if you're moving and exercising. And like, why don't we expect the same from ourselves on a personal level, on a spiritual level, on a mental level? Like I really see human development as this spiral where we're always moving upwards towards this probably infinite growth of raising our consciousness, becoming more authentically ourselves, living a life where we're more free and feeling more joy and feeling more love. Like all of that is upwards on this spiral. So I think growth is, I don't know, inevitable as part of life. We see that all around us. We see that in the natural world as flowers grow. Like, why wouldn't you want to grow and bloom and see what your next phase can be?
Yeah, no, I totally agree because I know, and it's always hard when like you know somebody and you're like, whoa, they're so different, or that's not how they used to be. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. Like you said, we're growing, we're changing, we're older, we're aging, like we're becoming wiser. So it's like we can't expect maybe somebody we knew even 5 years ago, even a year ago, 6 months ago, like to be the same, right? Allowing that space for growth.
And I would challenge that growth, it's not so much about changing away from who you are to something new. It's actually really a returning to your true nature. Or that's the kind of growth I'm trying to be on, right? Like I'm trying to become more of the person I was meant to be in this world. And that means like leaving behind programming or limiting beliefs or fears or things that used to hold me back. That means letting go of false images of like, that ego of how you see yourself and just stepping further and further into letting your soul shine through of like just your best self is really just your most authentic self.
Yes.
And so I think all of our growth, we should be encouraging each other. Like, yeah, let's see who you're really meant to be, who you can become. Like, let's let them out, let them free. I can't, I love cheering on my friends and their growth. It's like the most beautiful thing to see. I think.
I totally agree with you. And I love that you brought that up. Like it really is like, and we've kind of talked about that before, like kind of releasing that ego and just allowing yourself to be like, okay, like who is that person I meant to be? And like finding pieces of you. Like, I feel like recently I've been discovering like pieces of young Tiffany that are starting to come out again, like in a good way. And it's like, oh my God, this is something I loved. Let's do that. Or like this playful part is coming out, or this things I really liked, but I was like too shy to do, or like, and now it's like coming out and it's like, this is cool. Like little Tiffany would be so proud.
Yes, there's so much information in what brought us joy and what we loved and our natural gifts as children. And we kind of like lose connection with that as we move through life and we, go into, I don't know, it probably starts at high school when all the academic, you have to take all the certain classes and you can't just follow what you love or sorry, not to pick on high school, but
no, it's true. It's true.
Like,
yeah.
They're like, oh, you need to take the math class and the science class and the literature and what if you just are an artist at heart and like, there's not really a path that's allowing that person to flourish. We're giving so much, society is giving so much to us of this is what you should do. This is what you need to do. And you need to go to college and you need to get the high paying job. And we just get out of touch with those things that were really hints of who we're meant to be. And then I think for a lot of us, we're rediscovering that later down the path, right? We've gone through the college and we started our careers. And then we, at some point or other, might realize, oh, wait, am I living in alignment with what I was meant to be here for? And then we kind of recalibrate and all of those. Yeah. A lot of times you have these special synchronistic moments of like, oh, of course this would happen. I even had things like that about healing for me. When I was little, I wanted to be a doctor for a while. And that's because I just knew like, I want to help people heal and be well. And I love this idea that the body is so amazing and can heal itself and has so much intelligence, and just this idea of life and growing was so amazing to me. And now I see it was like always because I was going to be in this role, but it took me kind of a while to get there.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting that you brought that up, because same, when I was younger, it was always like, I'm going to be a pediatrician, I'm going to be a doctor. Like even when I went to college, like that was my major. I did one semester in it, and it was like, because at the end of the day, I wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to like help them and serve them and like do things for them and keep them healthy.
Yeah.
And here I am now,
I
a
got
PE
chills
teacher.
when you were saying that. Yes, of course.
Yes, like, but in like a different capacity. And I think that's the thing, when we kind of like take a step back and we're like, wait a minute, maybe this what isn't what I pictured, but it's different and it's kind of better.
Yes,
You
and
know?
yes, and you got to just kind of like feel it out as you go and trust your intuition at, as you move through life, because it's impossible to see, well, maybe not impossible, but it's hard to always see what the end goal is going to be, but all you can do is kind of follow what pulls you and what gives you joy and what you're naturally excited about, and hopefully you follow that more and more and you end up in a life that seems like, oh yeah, wait, I couldn't have even planned this out if I tried, and look where I am, and it's so perfect.
Yeah, no. And it's so funny because I was even like, when I was prepping like our questions and stuff for this interview, I was thinking about like, whoa, like I, started at the gym at like 2013. And I think that's around the time that I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it's so cool because we know a lot of the same people, and we're like, whoa, it's so fun to see like where everyone is like 10 years later.
That's
Like it's
crazy
been 10 years,
been 10
right?
years. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
It's been 10 years, and it's just so fun to see. Like you said, like I love seeing our friends grow and evolve and become like their most authentic self, and like just kind of shed all these expectations, and like some that we put on ourselves, some that maybe our families have put on us, some that like society has put on us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like so fun to like start moving towards that direction. And it's like a lifelong journey. So it's not like I'm done.
No, for sure. That's the worst part about it. No, best and worst is it's a never ending journey. But yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what tips do you have for anybody listening on connecting more to yourself and like personal transformation, for people out there that are like, I'm ready, I want a personal transformation, I want to connect to myself? Like, what tips do you have for like any beginners ready to kind of start that?
Yeah, I think really, I think it is just carving out intentional time to connect with yourself and potentially something greater than yourself, whatever that feels like for you. And honestly, it does look different for everybody, and it can be really simple and easy. Like it could be, working with a Reiki master or somebody over a set amount of time to help support you through a transformation. But it can also be just creating those rituals in your day-to-day that can be so simple. For me, things that are huge for me, journaling. I'm a huge journaler, and that is where I connect to myself on a deeper level. For some people, it's being out in nature, and that can be as simple as taking a walk down a street with trees. But like, I invite you to do that, and to not be listening to a podcast, and to not be talking to a friend on the phone. Not that those things are bad, but like, what are those moments where you're just getting quiet with yourself?
Yes.
So quiet that then you might just be able to hear your inner voice. You always have an inner voice speaking, but we don't get quiet enough to hear it. So, journaling to let that voice come through, or doing anything that you can do that creates that quiet, whatever you enjoy. It can be laying out at a pool, or in the water in the pool, and just like being quiet and being with yourself and being with the water. It's really, and I think it's going to be most impactful if it's something that's meaningful to you. So, make your own ritual.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny that you were saying like connecting with nature too, because one thing that I started doing in the pandemic was paddleboarding, like a lot more than I had. And we got inflatable paddle boards, and we would take them to the marina. And I love the water. So I was just like, we would, paddle around. I wouldn't have any music or anything, and I would just listen to the sounds. And when we'd get to a certain part, I'd kind of just stop and just lay on my board and let like my fingertips go in the water and just be there. And it was like, I I would forget where I was, like in terms of like nobody else exists. It was just me and the water. And I was like, this is cool. Like those are those quiet moments that you're talking about where I'm like, nothing else matters. And now I'm kind of able to like take that to other places with me. Like I'll be at the gym sometimes, and at the end, they're like, okay, like 2-minute breath recovery. They turn off the lights, give you 2 minutes to kind of catch your breath. You're laying down. I forget anybody's there. And I'm like, whoa.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Because it's that practice of really like, if you think energetically and spiritually, we're just like, we are all energy. We're actually connected to the environment all around us. And it's actually a false assumption that we're separate. Like it's a falsehood that you have your body and that the water is separate. And when you start to really just drop into that unity with the world around, like that is, I mean, that is a deeply spiritual experience, deeply healing. That's where you can receive all sorts of upgrades to your energy because like you're connected on another level. So that's what we're shooting for always. That sounds like the best. Those are those transcendental moments, like the brushes with something that feels just, beyond description, beyond words. Whether you think of it as merging with nature, water, the elements, merging with God, merging with, it's almost, it has a quality that is so hard to describe, but that's the ultimate. If you can find ways to build that into your days or weeks or, a ritual that helps you get there.
Totally. So for those of you listening, these are great tips. Take advantage of them and give them a try. And like one of the things that I would suggest is, somebody from the other side who like, got into this is you can't expect this to happen like in a week, in a month. Like this is something that took like years of me consistently doing to get to the place that I am today. And I'm a big habits person. So it's like creating those habits for yourself. And like I said, this spiritual health is one of the dimensions of wellness. So really like tending to that area, as Grace was mentioning, is going to be key to the rest of the puzzle as well. So if you are looking to like level up in all areas, it's like that's a piece of it,
And even like I'm obviously in the spiritual health category, so I'm going to be like, but there is a lot of that is actually the category that feeds the others. Like energetically, that is your source. And then that's flowing into the physical, flowing into the mental, flowing into the financial, to the relationships, whatever your dimensions. Sorry, I don't know which dimensions you use.
Yes.
But, it's flowing into those other areas. So it's like, it's not just one of the areas. It's like the primary, like the foundational area that you need to feed the others. And I say that also to just bring up, like one cool thing that happened to me was the more I went on my spiritual journey and was, attuning to energy and Reiki and energy healing, my intuition, my inner voice got so turned up that now I'm in the best health, physical health that I've ever been in my life. And that's been purely because now I just follow what my body needs from such an intuitive place versus mindset I used to have of like, oh, I have to eat this specific diet or do these specific workouts. And really, I didn't realize, but it was maybe not aligned with my body exactly. And maybe too much stress or too, whatever. And I think each of us are very unique and like our bodies crave different things. And the more that I got in touch with my intuition and myself on that deep level, the more that I just knew how to take care of my body in a very intuitive way.
Yeah. And you know what? I totally agree with you because I feel like prior, a couple years ago, everything was its own unique, like, okay, got to do my physical health, got to do my mental health. Like everything was like these little boxes. And then a couple years later, when I really started working on the spiritual health, like you said, that intuition and just the connectedness to yourself really like ramps up. And then everything just started to flow a lot nicer. And I was like, whoa, like my like athlete ego brain kind of like went out the door and I was like able to connect with my physical health in a different way. Like I've mostly been an intuitive eater for a while, but like I became even more an intuitive eater. And like there was just all these other pieces that kind of just went a little more smoothly because I was so connected to me.
For sure.
And so I love that you brought that up, because it is true. And like, that's something I tell my students. It's like, these are all connected. Like, they're not separate, pieces. Like, if something's wrong here, it's going to affect the rest,
Yeah.
But I do kind of think that is one that, like, because it's that kind of higher self piece that really like can really bridge the gap between them all. So I love that. Thank you for sharing.
For sure.
I do have one final question for you that I ask all of my guests, and it is, what advice would you share with your teenage self or teenagers today and teenagers today?
I think it would just be that you are perfect just as you are.
I love
And
that.
yeah, just to come back to yourself. You don't need to be anything for anyone else. You don't need to try to look a certain way to get liked, to whatever. Like, all it always comes, what it comes back around to eventually, you'll realize, is just being you, and the right people will show up, and the right
Yes.
experiences will show up, and trying to morph yourself into anything else is just a fool's errand. So just let yourself be your perfect self.
I love that. And it's funny because just working with kids too, I just see so many different, types of students and unique students, and like, they find their little groups, they find the people who like value them for like them. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool, and I feel like this generation is a little more open to being themselves than we were. And I love it. And I hope they continue that. I mean, not all of them are like that, but like, I can see generationally, like, I see it more than like when we were younger. So
amazing. Thank goodness. Because
yes,
I think our generation, it was like everyone was trying to be a certain look or way or whatever you thought the cool was, right?
Yes.
I deeply remember that.
No,
so happy to hear that. Good job, kids. Keep it up.
Yes.
Just be you.
Yes. Gen Z, keep being you. You're doing great. Let's keep it up. So how can we support you? Where can we direct people?
Yeah, for sure. So my Instagram, Forward with Grace, but it's Forward W Grace. I share a lot of just inspo, motivation, insights, lots of things on there. So if you're into this and you want to learn how to connect with yourself deeper and to take care of your spiritual health, that would be a great place just for, information, insight, whatever. You can follow me on there. And obviously, if anybody feels called to work together, I'm always, I offer consultations to look at working together one-on-one. I take only a handful of one-on-one clients nowadays, but I also have a team of Reiki masters that work for my consultancy that can also help work with people if they want to work in a more intimate, deeper, personal one-on-one way. So.
Yeah. And for those of you listening, Grace, you recently started doing more like business consulting too. And that got me really thinking about just so much, occupational health. That's another, area of wellness. And like, I think for companies and businesses that can bring that into their place of work to take care of their employees in a different way, like, I just think it would make happier employees and like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why. So that whole part of my business sort of took on a mind of its own, has been growing because because companies, business owners, CEOs are realizing more more than ever that the well-being of their people is essential. Like, if you want your people to do good work, help them stay well. Like, you don't want to burn them out. You want to help them stay, help them thrive. And so, we support aligned businesses to deliver leadership development, corporate wellness, different offerings that are all infused with Reiki and the highest vibration energies to help people stay well. So, if that's something you're interested in, basically, if you are interested in any of this, reach out, let's chat. I love to meet people and talk to people about this. And I do think, especially in this realm of spiritual and energetic work, people do, you kind of find the right person to work with just based off who you vibe with. So if you're vibing with me, maybe we're meant to connect. So just reach out.
Yes. Well, I definitely vibe with you, and I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to everyone for listening to the Pretty Little Lifters podcast. I'm so grateful to you, Grace, for being a part of this and having this conversation. I've been very excited about it. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was so beautiful to see your beautiful face and be here with you.
I missed you.
Yes.
I definitely missed you. And everyone, I will share Grace's info in the show notes so you can support her and reach out if you are interested in Reiki. I'm a big fan of it. I'm an advocate of it. And I will talk to you next episode. Bye.